Hi, welcome to the very first video of my channel. This is Macadia, and this is Thor. Macadia is going to give me a quiz on service dogs. This here, Thor, is a
Great
service
Dane.
dog in training.
Yeah, he's a Great
He's
Dane.
also a Great Dane. That is correct.
That is, by standards, correct.
Well, let's just get into it.
Alright, so the first one, which is commonly asked a lot of times, how big must a dog be in order to work as a service dog? So we'll just ask you the questions. A service dog must be over 20 pounds. B, there's no size requirements to be a service dog. C, service dogs must be over 35 pounds. Or D, dogs must be over 50 pounds.
I don't think there is a requirement, even though it would help for certain reasons to have a bigger dog.
That is correct. By law, there is no standards for size. There are requirements for training. Like, even though it's smaller, they still need to have the same kind of training that a big dog does. Big dogs are just easier to tweak and correct. So usually people will choose bigger dogs for different reasons. Sometimes littler dogs do work better, but there is legally no size requirement. The next one is, which is legally not a service dog task? A, guiding. B, deep pressure therapy. C, alerting to medical conditions. Or D, emotional support.
Emotional support, because that'd be an emotional support animal.
I'm proud. That is correct. That would be an emotional support animal. By law, they have to be task trained, and emotional support is technically not a task because any animal can do it.
Yeah.
Because service animals have to be trained. It's not a trained. Emotional support isn't a trained thing. Doesn't mean they can't help, but does mean that's technically not a thing. Which of these requirements must a service dog meet? A, must wear a clearly marked vest or harness when working. B, must work in public on a flat buckle collar. C, must be trained to do work to mitigate the handler's disability. Or D, must have an ID and certification to present to gatekeepers.
I think C, they have to do their job.
We're not gonna do the A, B, or C because I keep stuttering trying to say the letters. That is correct. They must be trained to do tasks to mitigate the handler's disability. Legally, I don't even have to have a collar on him to work in places. But that is just for specific people. And no, you don't have to use a flat buckle collar. I don't. I use just a regular choke chain or a pinch collar. And an ID and certification, if they ask you to present that, is actually illegal, and they can get like a $500 fine for trying to force you to present that. So, yeah, that is correct. Very nicely. When can businesses ask a service dog to be removed from the premises? This is actually a really important one, and a lot of people don't understand it, and a lot of people get it wrong, so I'm going to be very interested. If the dog is unhousebroken, or if the dog is disruptive, aggressive, and the handler cannot get it back under control, or if the other customers are frightened of dogs, if the customers are severely allergic to dogs, or if the dog does not appear to be actively assisting the handler at all times.
The first one, because if they're getting aggressive, then I have a pit bull who is not a service dog, but she is very sweet, and if she wanted to, she could really hurt someone because they're just so strong.
That is true. If she had the means to hurt somebody, she definitely could. With service animals, it's very important that they are trained well enough that they are not going to have accents inside of a store or be disruptive, like barking. And barking is sometimes different, because barking, if someone starts having a seizure, a lot of dogs are trained to start barking to get people's attention, because you think people can die from hitting their head so hard on the ground. And if they cannot get it back under control. Technically, if the dog barks, or most of the time if they're in training, if they're being really disruptive and you cannot re-control them, then they can be asked to leave. But if they're having just if they're having a little problem and you get back under control, they can't ask you to leave. Because like with him, this was when I was like doing training and he was going off duty. It was before he was neutered, he hiked his leg inside of a pet store and like peed on this one thing. Not a lot, but a little bit. And we ended up just leaving because I like cleaned it up and had to leave. Couldn't know what to do with him. And then he's never ever had another accident inside of a store before. Are you laying on her? Oh, very kind of you. So yeah. And it doesn't matter if somebody's allergic or scared of dogs, because technically if it's a working dog, it has rights to be there, because the person also needs it more than it overrules other people essentially. Which isn't like trying to be offensive to them, it's just a rule. When is it appropriate to interact with a working service dog? Number 1, never. 2, after asking for and receiving permission from the owner. 3, always, as long as you're a dog person. 4, if the dog appears to be doing nothing, like lying under a table.
Second one, because I would definitely prefer someone ask before paying my dog, otherwise she might get a little jumpy.
Yeah. That is correct. Which it does, it's technically mixed for me. I just wrote down a bunch of questions and put them on the computer, so I'm like reading from a list. Which I personally don't agree with that completely, because yeah, technically you could, but if it's a working dog, you're not even supposed to ask. Just because it's especially if it's like a handler like me, it stresses me out if people ask. And so technically, just wouldn't ask at all if it were me. And if it was a working dog, just wouldn't ask at all. But yeah, technically that is correct. If you receive permission, then it's fine. That's like how that's how normal dog things work. If you ask, then it's alright, but don't just walk up and ask. I have so many people who don't even talk to me and just walk up and start touching him because they can. Which is why it was so funny when they said, always, as long as you're a dog person. Because that's what most people think. They're like, but it's like, oh, it's okay, I love dogs, and he seems to love me. For one, he usually is not very interested in other people, like, outside of our home. And he's usually fairly focused. So, that one. And then, how long does it usually take to train a service dog? 1, 6 weeks, 2, 3 years. 2 years, and 4, 6 months.
I'd say about 3 years.
So, first one. That is actually not correct, around 2 years. Because 3 years, well, it could go either way, but like, technically, 3 years is a little bit longer, and if it takes them that long, then they probably aren't cut out for the work. Doesn't mean, like, most of them can be almost fully trained by 2 years and just continue working, because technically dogs are always learning. So, it really varies with the dog, though. Like, sometimes it can take 4 years, sometimes it'll take 6 months. Some dogs can be ready for PA way faster than that. Which of these questions are businesses allowed to ask of service dog handlers? 1, is this a service dog? What tasks does he or she perform? May I see the dog's ID, and what is your disability? What is wrong with you, and where's your certification papers? And demonstrate at least 2 of the dog's tasks and show a doctor's note.
Say what the tasks are, and if you say it's not a service dog, then you're probably not lying.
Yeah. So the top one is correct. It was, is this a service dog and what tasks does he or she perform? They're allowed to ask what task. They're not allowed to ask you to perform the task or ask for, like I said, certification. And they can't ask, like, what your disability is or what's wrong with you. Because that's so invasive to be asking people, like, well, what's wrong with you? Like, there was a guy.
Or asking someone to remote seizure.
For real. I was like, I feel like that'd be really weird. Like, one of the things, this is like a story time also. I went to Winco. I might have told you about this. I went to Winco and we were like checking out in the line and I had him next to me and this guy turns around because he was like laying in front of me and he was being good And this guy goes, "Is he a seizure alert dog?" And I said, "Oh, no." And he goes, "Oh, are you blind?" But just so exasperated, and like, "Oh my God, are you blind?" And my mom was there, and she was like, "Yeah, she's just super duper good at being blind." And like, not rude like I did it, but just more like, "Yeah, she's really good at being blind."
She's not blind.
I'm not blind, no. She's not a guide dog, not at all. And he was like, "Oh, I shouldn't keep asking questions." I was like, "Yeah, it's kind of invasive to ask people that." I mean, I do get it, being a person, being like, "Ooh, I wonder." Yeah. But I wouldn't ask that. That's really invasive. So yeah, you got that right. The last one is, where are service dogs allowed to accompany their handlers? A, anywhere the general public is allowed. B, only areas where they have been invited. C, anywhere other than businesses that sell/serve food. Or D, anywhere other than the doctor's offices.
My mind just blanked. Can you reread them? Sorry for this is very boring for you.
Anywhere the general public goes, and only areas where they have been invited. Anywhere other than businesses that sell/serve food. Anywhere than the doctor's office.
The first one. Anywhere normal people are.
That is actually correct. Doesn't matter if there's food or not. Since it's a working animal, they should be trained not to be getting stuff in the food. And most of the time it's just not, it doesn't make sense. Like, we were kicked out of, very common story, because I got so pissed, a gas station, because she said that dogs weren't allowed in because of the food. And me, I just panicked, so I wasn't allowed to be like, "Oh, well, he's a working dog." I just panicked and was like, just left. And then my friend stayed in, and she goes, I heard her talking to the next customer in line, which for one is super inappropriate to be talking to other, like, customers and clients. And she's like, I overheard her saying, "It's not really about the food. I just don't think big dogs should be anywhere, and they shouldn't even exist to begin with." And I was like, so I was so mad, and we were gonna complain about her, but I think either she got fired or she quit before we did. So it was not that big of a deal. But yeah, that is correct. They're allowed to go anywhere the general public is allowed. So, like, if I wanted to take him into a restaurant with me, he's perfectly allowed. If I wanted to take him, like, to the doctors, like, if I had to go get blood tests or something like that, I'm technically allowed to take him. And it doesn't matter if people are, like, scared of dogs or feeling comfortable around dogs, or if they're allergic to dogs, or if they just don't like having a dog near them. It doesn't really matter, even if you just don't like dogs. Technically, service dogs, since they're task trained, they have a reason to be where they are. And so, by law, you're legally not allowed to ask somebody to leave. Which is something that a lot of restaurants take issue with. Because they think that just because it's a dog, they're allowed to ask it to leave. And technically it's not true. They'll just say it's in the way or something like that, but technically you have to allow them on. So I think you got, like, everyone correct, I think, except for, like, one. I don't remember which one.
That one varied. It was the how long does it take to train them?
Oh, yeah. Because that one, so it wasn't technically wrong. It was just, it varies. Yeah. So, I think you got them all right. I've taught you well. I taught you
I did not know a huge amount about service dogs before I met Micadia. I was taught to ask before putting a dog, and service dogs did things for their owners, and that's about what I knew.
You're like, that's about it. That's really funny. Yeah, I also took this quiz, because I got the questions from a quiz. I took the ones that I found most important and took them. And, I got, like, all of them correct, except for one also, and that's because when it said, when are you allowed to interact with a service dog, and I just put never, because technically they're a working dog, and you're not supposed to interact with them at all. So, at the same time, kind of like the same thing where I wasn't wrong, but also there's another answer. So, but I think that's about it. So, yeah. We'll be doing, like, either another one of these, or, like, just another Q&A or something.
Or just something random.
Like, sometimes we stay up really late and we're just like, bro, we're up late. We're bored. You want to see what we're doing today? Like, that kind of crap. So, yeah, you can tune back in for another video. I think we're good. Are we good?
Yep.
Alright, so.
See you in the next video.
Yeah, I think that's good. We will
That
either.
was the last song. Starting over.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, good song, but
It just started randomly playing Gosh Gosh, we're sorry. Anyways, we will go. Goodbye, guys. Please tune in for another video.
bye.